Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Table. I'm Taylor. I'm going crazy because what? So Zoo and More, because it's Zootober. Huge grain of salt, by the way. We're doing games from the Zoo and More compendium. Grain of salt. It's a compendium that includes me and many people in the community. I did not know when it would fund. I genuinely, first Kickstarter, was super scared, nervous of it all. Funded in 20 minutes. And I don't know how to run a Kickstarter. I didn't know when to do an update post. And I was like, I'll do an update post in 5 days. Maybe it'll get close to funding. I'll be like, woo, yeah, here's to funding soon. It was at 5 digits, 10K after 5 days. That is wild. Wild. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who checked out the Kickstarter. It is I'm speechless. It's amazing. I'm so thankful. Such a wild idea to have 4 standard deck games and then all in one with like a weird metagame. It was a wild idea. It means so much to be able to make these wild ideas. So thank you. It's a dream come true. Truly, I can't thank you enough. And it's been also super meaningful. I have a tier on the Kickstarter that's like, hey, if you bought Short Zoot Suit, I don't want you to have to pay twice for a game you already bought. Even though, again, Zoot Suit has some changes in this version. But I was like, hey, there's a discount. Just, send me proof of purchase or whatever. Just like a picture of the game or whatever you want to do. And people have sent the sweetest photos. There's some that just, they're so inherently, when I see them, I just get filled with such emotion just because it's like, wow, that game is in someone's house, on someone's shelf. And to see those photos really, really meant a lot. So thank you so much for anyone who backed, who reached out, who even just looked at the Kickstarter, or even just played the games with a standard deck. Again, the kind of core idea is that these are standard deck games, so even if you can't afford it or can't find a way to get a game, especially because my shipping is that you've played them or just checked them out in any way. So thank you so much. Thanks for everyone who backed and sent photos and everything. And also, speaking of shipping, reach out if you're not in the continental United States. I'm trying to find ways to do easier shipping. This is just my first Kickstarter, so I was like, I'll keep it continental US, but there have been a lot of requests. So I think at this point, there might be a way to do international shipping of some sorts. We'll see. So just email me. The email's on the Kickstarter. Go to the FAQ if you're interested. So, thank you so much. It's been a little over a week over here. Just a roller coaster of emotions, for sure. It has been amazing. All that said, thank you so much, everyone. Oh, it truly is so amazing to see. And very much like the Grinch, my heart is growing a million sizes. Oh, thank you. So, to the game. Again, it's Zootober. It is Bug House Millionaire. Woo! This one is a wild one. Art by Catherine. Just an amazing artist who also did Hodgepodge Dodgeball, which will be coming out in a week or 2 or so. But the hook to this one, this is, I think, the craziest one of the compendium. It is a real-time. Hold on. Wait with me here. It's different than other real-time games. Stay with me. Climbing Shinning game, partnership game that lasts no more than like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Pretty wild. So the premise is, I was ruminating a lot, and I'll get into this because I'll do a designer diary after the teach, but just a little glimpse here is, I thought it was super interesting that a lot of people in the hobby don't like real-time games, which is totally valid, totally fair, but chess is like a super highly regarded game, and that is, for the most part, real time. There's, bullet chess, and I think a majority of tournament chess have, a clock. Obviously, you can play without a clock, but I just thought that was an interesting thing, and I was just ruminating on it. And I remember I had a friend who did a bunch of chess variants, and would stream them a lot. And one of them, which I thought was, you know, a very classic actually chess variant, is called Bughouse chess. And it's this interesting concept where you sit to the side of your partner, and they are playing with the white pieces, you're playing with the black pieces, or whatever, right? And you're playing two simultaneous games of chess. And when you capture a piece of your opponent, that piece is white, and you'll give it to your partner. And so on your partner's turn, they can either do a normal chess move, or they can place a piece anywhere on the board. Super wild. And I was like, oh, that is such an interesting system. Can it apply to other things? And so that is the hook to Bughouse Millionaire. It's Bughouse chess, but the premise is you're playing two simultaneous climbing shedding games that are only two-player. But when one of you passes, the person who won that trick, so you're in a two-player game, well, let's say you won it, you'll take all the cards of the trick, both opponent or you, any ones that have been played, and you're going to have to pass one of them to your partner. It goes right into their hand. It's open communication, anything can happen, and you win when either one of your partners plays, or you or your partner plays all your cards, because it is a shedding game after all, or one of your opponents, either side, runs out of time on their clock. That's right. So the clock in the game is very flexible. It's around 2 minutes in the standard game, but it's meant to be a thing that adds pace and tension to the game, but not meant to stress people. I've played it to where people are like a little too stressed, and you just add time to the clock until you're less stressed. It's supposed to be an incentive to play and play well, and not speed, like bend the cards, kind of go crazy. So there's a little bit of a fine line, and I think the group will kind of find it. I've played, you know, where it's 3 minutes on the clock, sometimes even 1.5 minutes if the people are playing pretty quick. But yeah, that's the premise. Climbing shedding, partnership, 5-ish minute game of a wild idea. So let's go to the table to show how to play. I can't do a 4-person real-time game myself, so I'll do a little bit of a simulation and then show also maybe what it might look like from your point of view if you're in the thick of it. So it's going to be like an interesting teach. Also, I don't know why, last week I forgot to teach the 2-player rules to Chai Tea Jazz, which uses straw men, and it's so fascinating. And my lovely co-designer Sean reached out and was like, where are these rules? What have you done, Taylor? So they will be included in this video. So if you're curious how 2-player Chai Tea Jazz works, I got you. Thank you so much again. It blows me away. Like the amazing support that is overwhelmingly kind does not. I wanted to do a million updates. I tried to just do one, but I wanted to be like, thank you. So it means so much. Thank you. Whew. What a wonderful way to start Zooktober. See ya later. Let's go to the table. The deck in Bughouse Millionaire is 0 through 15 in 4 suits, so kind of an extended standard deck. As you can see, the higher the number, the more lavish the home, from a giant mansion to kind of just a chair on a lawn. Here we have a game of Bughouse set up mostly for only 4 players. So how it's going to work is players that are on the same teams are going to sit next to each other. You're going to deal 16 cards to each player. It's a big hand, intentionally. And also, as you can see, the bug players are on the bottom here, the house players on the bottom here. Well, there's also supposed to be timers in the game, a la Bughouse Chess, where each side is supposed to have their own timer. So I only had one phone to do this, but imagine this side over here also has a phone timer. You're going to set it to a comfortable time. I recommend 2 minutes roughly each. Of course, you can grow that time if it's too time stressful, but we're going to just work with the standard 155 per side. How the game is going to work is on the ready, set, go, players are going to touch it, and so that will start the time for the other player, and vice versa. So like over here, it would start the time for this player, and players are going to be playing a 2-player climbing shitting game at the same time. So what you can play are singles, sets of any length, or runs of any length, but they have to be suited. So over here, maybe this player plays a suited run of 2, and so they're going to be doing their own game. Over here, the chum bucket and Tarantula are going to be playing their own game. And so the Chum Bucket should have been playing right now. They are actually on the clock. So maybe they, looking at their hand, they're just going to play a pair of ones. When you play, you are going to press the button, which is going to start the clock for the next player. So the next player is now on the clock, and so they have to play a higher pair. Maybe they play just these two 13s. They're going to hit it. And so the other player, the Chum Bucket, is looking at their hand, and if they had the two 15s, they could play it. Maybe they want to save them, though, so they are actually going to pass. When you pass, you also are going to hit it. So now this player, the Tarantula player, is going to be on the clock right now, and they have to, before they can lead, pass one of the cards in the trick to their partner player. And again, the partner player and the RV are doing their own game. But so the Tarantula player is looking at this, and they're like, hey, do you want a 1, a 13, or maybe like a heart or a spade? And so they're like talking, right? Like, oh, what do you want? What do you want? And so maybe the person's like, oh, I need a 13 clubs. So then they hand them that one card, goes into their hand, and then they're going to discard out of the game those cards, and then they're going to lead to the next trick. And again, they can lead whatever they want. Maybe they lead a run of 3. So flow like this is going to continue until either any timer runs out. So if that player is, thinking a long time and it takes them a minute to play, and their timer runs out before anything happens over here, then that team will lose because one of their players' timers runs out. But if, let's say they pass, it came over here, and this person gives a card over here, and maybe let's say it's much later down the line, and they only have, this card left, and it's their turn, and they play, and they're out of cards, then their team wins because one of their players shed first. That's pretty much how to play Bughouse Millionaire. Again, when you pass a card, you can only pass one, and you have to pass one. In fact, you can't play until your partner takes the card, but you can choose when to pass them cards, right? So maybe you notice that your partner is going to go out first. Don't pass them a card. Just you can sit and wait, and there should be enough time to have these deliberations. Also, you can say literally whatever you want about your hand, but you cannot ever show a hand to your partner, or when you capture a trick. So let's say maybe Tarantula had more cards here, they led a 7, and maybe Chum Bucket passed. Tarantula can't show, let's maybe have a little bit more in the trick. Maybe Chum Bucket played the 10, and then Tarantula played the 13, Chum Bucket pass. So you can't ever just show a trick to your partner. They can watch if they want, but at the end you can be like, oh, do you want a 10, a 13, or a 7? Hurry, I'm out of time. And so you can describe tricks, you can say what you want, you can ask for certain things, you can fully communicate. You can just never show your hand or show the contents of a trick. That is really the only restrictions. And so yeah, that's how to play the game. The variant in the game, and this is definitely not Final Graphic Design, is the singles only variant where each team gets a single card in front of them, and neither player can lead singles until one of them takes this card in front of them. And what's interesting is that card can never leave in front of a player after someone takes it. So you have to think, oh, I'm definitely going to go out, or I definitely need to go out with singles and take this, because your partner might be in trouble over there because they can't ever lead singles, and they might have a hand that gets bogged down. So like if they had this hand right here, they had to lead singles, there's nothing I guess they could lead this run, but other than that, they can't lead anything from their hand. So you better hope that you're the one who's going to go out, or else you're going to force the time over here. And what's interesting is it's made lead singles. So now that Tarantula has this, maybe they do this, but the Chum Bucket, the clock, when it's the Chum Bucket's turn, you can't always follow singles. So that is the singles variant. And that's how to play Bughouse Millionaire. The deck in Chai Tea Jazz at 2 players is actually the same, and I thought it would be fun, because we're in the Bughouse video, to use the Bughouse deck. So it's 4 suits numbered 1 through 9. Here we have Chai Tea Jazz set up at 2 players, so you're going to shuffle the deck, you're going to cut 4 cards, you're going to deal 7 to the hand of each of the players, and then you're going to deal 5 face down in front of both players, and then 5 face up on top of it. If you're familiar with the idea of Strawman, this is a Strawman variant of Chai Tea Jazz, where your hand, so if we're looking at the RV player's hand, it's this set of cards, but it's also this set of cards. And the face-up cards are the ones that they can play. They can't actually play the face-down cards until they are revealed. So similar, the betting is the same thing. And let's say this was an over or a slalom contract, and it was the lead of the RV here, and maybe they want to start high. So let's do that. And so they would lead with the 9 of spades. So it's a must follow. So coming to the chum bucket here, notice they have no spades up there. So they'd have to look into their hand and have no spades right there. So maybe they're going to just toss this 3 into the trick, and the highest of spades is going to win, which is wild for the RV, because now the RV knows that spades is a completely fine thing to lead. So maybe they just do that, and even though it's low, they're just going to lead a 6 of spades. So it's actually just going to keep going like this. You can play any face-up card from your hand, and after the trick, it would be revealed what was underneath. And if they were to play that, so let's say they just did that, now the chum bucket player just has one fewer kind of open kind of pile to be able to play from. But everything else is the same, and that's how to play Chai Tea Jazz at 2-player. So that is Bughouse Millionaire and Chai Tea Jazz at 2 players. Oh, I feel so bad not covering that last time. Sean has such a wonderful system. I think Strawman is so fun. It's fun to see what is face up in front of your opponents and kind of working off that, especially when bidding in Chai Tea Jazz. But again, not a review, huge bias, huge grain of salt. But it was so much fun working with Sean specifically on that. I think he's the master of Strawman. So having that be a part of Chai Tea Jazz, having a Strawman game in the collection itself is so amazing. On to the game of Bughouse Millionaire. So first off, it was so much fun working with Catherine on this. I think it was really interesting to talk about how I wanted like the art and the kind of direction of the growing backgrounds in terms of size for the houses. I have said this before. I love that idea that like cards matter about rank and suit as they move around in the deck. And as you can see, the smaller the number, the less fancy of an abode, all the way to just a chair on a lawn. But it was really fun to come up with those middling houses. Like what is, that 9 equivalent of a house? And I think it's kind of fun, a little hobbitish. But Catherine was amazing, especially because just it's such a weird premise. I talked about this with Chai Tea Jazz, like just to go to an artist and be like, hey, so it's bug realtors that are pitching different houses. Because the bug market is just crazy in Johannesburg, which is the theme. So that was really fun. It's always amazing when you pitch that idea or theme to an artist and they're like, yeah, sure, yeah, let's do it. Thank you so much, Catherine. She did just an amazing job. And also she is the artist in a couple weeks, we're covering Hodgepodge Dodgeball. So it's really fun. I think I'll compare and contrast styles in that one, because I think that one's more of like a children's illustration book, whereas this one is kind of like cute art, like really fun how like the goofy eyeballs are like kind of off the head of the animal. But to the design diary, so I mentioned it at the top, a little bit of that idea of chess and making a real-time game, hopefully making one that isn't too stressful. Again, I really kind of try to emphasize in the rulebook and in that teach that definitely make it to where the time limit is a pressure, but not super stressful. And there's definitely going to be maybe people who don't like this type of game, and that's always tough and that's always fair. But I think there is something to the time pressure. Part of what was really tough with this design is I tried to create a variant that doesn't use time and clocks, especially because like saying, oh, hey, download a clock to play this game, or 2 of them, is always tough. So I was like, oh, let me try to design a non-real-time variant, and it was tough. It didn't, like the tension didn't quite work, because there's a non-real-time variant of Bughouse Chess. It's where you slide a card to your partner, and they can't make a move until they slide it back, and how you slide it is by making a move. So, or they can't make a move. You can't make a move until they slide it back. And how it works is, essentially, it will like soft lock you trying to make moves if you're making too many moves. So that's how it balances the real time. I tried that one in this one, and it doesn't quite work because you're passing cards and players would always forget to move the card. And even though it's not real time, there's definitely a lot going on. So it didn't quite feel just the spirit of the game. So I think I kind of more approached it as maybe lengthen the time if the time is too big of an issue for you. That said, it is a wild game. So the again, the premise was Bughouse ideas, where you're passing cards to the other player. That was also interesting. It started off with passing any amount of cards, and it became a little bit too much in terms of the communication. And also, if you played pairs and like a pair of 13s won, kind of like in that example, you would just pass both those 13s and just kind of give that same hand to the other player. Whereas if you only passed one, it led to more interesting communication, especially when the suits have to be, or the runs have to be suited. It led to being like, oh, which 13 do you want? Do you care what suit? And sometimes players don't. You can definitely, and this says in the rulebook, you can just give a card to your player, which is fine, but I've noticed those teams lose more because it's as if you're trying to play a claim shedding game and you're just randomly getting stuff into your hand, as opposed to if you took like a few seconds and you're just like, I want this, right? And you also can watch the other team play tricks. Like, that's totally valid to watch and see exactly what you want, but you are maybe on the clock, right? There's also that element of who among you in your partnership is going to shut out, and maybe help them. Maybe play your high cards and make the other person pass, so you can just give those high cards to your partner. And maybe don't pass cards to your partner when it's really low. And pay attention to hand size and pay attention to what they're asking for. Maybe they need a pair. And so then you try to maybe play your high cards and win, and then hand them a pair and make them a pair. Even though it's like a 4-minute, 5-minute real-time game, there's some super nuanced, this sounds, I mean, not to brag, there's a nuanced strategy that is less just like, oh, play high card, pass high card, you know, try to go fast. There's a lot of like paying attention and reading what your partner wants and where they're at. Or maybe you're the one who's going to shut out, and you can communicate that. You're like, hey, I think I'm going to do it. Like, stop trying to go out on your side. Maybe start giving me good stuff. Or maybe take as long as you can, because I need you to pay attention to me while I pass so that I don't run out the clock, because if I'm going to shut out, I need to pay attention to my clock. There's some interesting nuances, which is really fun. Also, especially with the variant, the made lead singles, which is definitely not final art. That communication of like, oh, am I going to be the one to take the singles? Because it's a death sentence, really, for your partner. They either have to just like pass at that point, or hopefully they have a big enough clock to let you try to shut out. So there's definitely some brutal tension on there with the singles. It was so much fun to design such a quick game, especially off the heels of Chai Tea Jazz, which is, again, an hour and a half of a game. So there's something fun about designs where sometimes you get really into one design and you explore that idea, and sometimes you just want to be like, I want to do something completely different. It's almost like, you know, I wrote a romance novel. I'm now going to write a mystery or a thriller or like whatever, right? And work maybe a different part of your design brain, or just kind of break out of that mindset that you were in. So it was really, really fun to go from like a long trick-taking game to a very short climbing shedding partnership game. And also there's a thing where, you know, different designs have different play testing restrictions. Like, for example, Chai Tea Jazz is very long, so when you reach out to different people and you're showing different people, you're like, hey, with the teach, this might be a little bit of an hour, which is tough. Whereas this one is like, hey, this will be 4 minutes or 5 minutes. Then the tough thing with this one is like, you need 4 players exactly, and also the real-time element of it sometimes turns people off. Anyway, all that to say, it was really fun to design for. And even though you're not kind of in the same game, it was really fun to have a game design where you're sitting next to your partner as opposed to across from your partner. Kind of fun. I don't know how unique that is, but it was definitely a good time to, when someone sits down, I'm like, oh, actually, we're on a team, not we're on a team, because that's just like classic tradition. Anyway, thanks so much. We're moving on from the Zoo and More games. Actually, next week is going to be a fun little surprise in the middle of Zooktober, and then we'll get back on it. We'll cover, the last 2 weeks will be Hodgepodge Dodgeball and Through the Zoo, the metagame compendium. Thank you so much. Again, blows my mind. 5 digits in 5 days is so wild. I can't believe how amazing this has become. So thank you means absolutely the world from everyone who's worked on this, and we cannot appreciate the kindness of everyone backing and all the support. So thank you so much. All right, catch you next week. Bye.